Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here today. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have had a good day here. And as you can see from the video, kind of have another, I guess you could say, somewhat of a Debbie Downer video again. Again, I'm not a huge guy who kind of likes to really hone in on that like kind of hate clickbait and everything. Despite what I'm going to be saying in this video, and kind of the clip or the thumbnail and title of this video being so negative towards Fortnite and everything, which is the topic of the video. I kind of just wanted to talk about Fortnite in general, and kind of the impact it's had on the gaming industry, since this came out and to the present day. And as you can tell from the video, what I'm going to be saying here, kind of more focusing on the negative aspect of anything. Not saying even by this video, I'm not even saying that Fortnite in and of itself is a bad game or these mechanics that I'm going to be talking about that they implemented them poorly in their service. I'm just going to be talking about kind of the larger impact they've had in the gaming industry as a whole, and why I've kind of come to believe that it's mostly been kind of a negative thing, especially outside of just Fortnite itself. And kind of there's a few mechanics I really wanted to focus in on and hone in on. One being battle royale itself, like the entire game mode or genre you could say, or the subgenre I guess of FPS and everything or third person shooters. But regardless, I kind of just want to talk about you know battle royales in general and kind of why I think overall I'm not hugely hating on them. I'm not saying they have no place or you can't make one. Just more so, why I think they've kind of had a negative impact on other game series and the series as a whole, you guess you could say. Another being kind of just battle passes, and I guess you could say microtransactions as a whole. But again, I'm not going to blame them for that primarily. But I talked about it in COD video, the last video I did actually. But not beyond that, I'm going to talk about kind of battle passes as well as seasons. Those kind of intertwine there a bit, obviously, but at the same time, I think again, I'm not even saying that Fortnite has implemented them poorly. I'm just saying I kind of want to talk about their impact, kind of what they've done and the negative impact on other games and the gaming industry as a whole here. So I guess let's just hop right into this and first start off with battle royales in general with the subgenre because again, starting with Fortnite's a pretty good starting point because again, Fortnite isn't what started the battle royale genre. There were battle royales before Fortnite or similar type games. Obviously, the big kind of prime example a lot of people bring up is H1Z1 before Fortnite. Hell, I mean Fortnite's biggest ever creator, Ninja. That's where outside of the Halo pro scene, a large portion of his kind of breakout, I guess you could say, when it comes to live streaming was from H1Z1. Pretty big game. It's pretty. That's the one before Fortnite. A lot of people point to as one of the earlier battle royales of this generation ish. So it's not even Fortnite who innovated this and kind of brought it to the forefront. Well, they did bring it to the forefront, but not who kicked it off, I guess. I don't know. They're not the original source, problem. But obviously, Fortnite surpassed what H1Z1 could ever, fathom, what they could have ever done, as well as really brought it to the forefront and exploded into something that few people thought it would, especially with how Fortnite started, as like kind of a single player multiplayer kind of base shooter, I guess you could say, like a wave shooter. But yeah, they're the ones who definitely kicked it off. I think it's no secret if you know me, and I might have mentioned it a few times on this channel before, but I'm not a huge battle royale fan personally speaking. I don't find the genre incredibly appealing to me. I mean, I guess it's not bad per se. And Apex Legends, for example, is one I found a lot of enjoyment with, particularly. But it's not a huge genre for me. I find it to be somewhat repetitive. I guess you could say that about every first-person shooter. It's like is COD just a recycled game over and over again? But I don't think that's a fair comparison because the sheer amount of different maps you play, the different guns you'll use, the different kill streaks you'll get, the different game modes you can play, and different sub game modes like zombies and campaign you can play with it. I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare something like that. Even games like Fortnite or Jesus, even games like Overwatch or something, which essentially especially for most people who really just play ranked, because it does have other game modes, but for people who just play ranked, it essentially is the same thing most of the time. They at least have different maps, different characters, something to keep it fresh. I just find battle royales to kind of be a somewhat competitive, I guess, game genre. And Fortnite in particular, I did enjoy it. At the start, I played for the first few seasons before I kind of tapped out for a while. I've came back, in little spurts here and there, but for the most part, I kind of tapped out. Um, for me, it was just the building aspect of it was not for me personally. I know they had to do something unique. They can't just carbon copy a lot of other, besides the cartoony graphics, can't really just carbon copy. You have to innovate somewhat. You have to try something new, take a swing at the ball. Obviously, you don't want to just walk or get struck out. But at the same time, it's the building aspect really took away from the gunplay aspect of it, and kind of just focused it more over to like almost stick skills, or like, I guess stick skills is a good way to put it. It's whoever could build faster, get an advantageous position on somebody. I really think it kind of is what made the game pretty sweaty, honestly, especially compared to some other games, because there's only so much you can do in a shooter when you don't build and stuff. That really elevated it, but that's a topic for another video. How video games become very sweaty in recent times. I might do a video on that in and of itself, but regardless, I'm not a huge fan of Fortnite and what it's become. Um, but furthermore, getting to the point of kind of it in the video, as far as the battle royale mechanic and genre, and why I think it's been a negative, even outside of Fortnite, I'm not a huge fan of how it's impacted a lot of other shooter games, particularly Call of Duty Black Ops, or Black Ops or Modern Warfare. Both have, taken a crack at the battle royale genre. I was glad to see that BO6, didn't really take a crack at it, other than, of course, supporting and still having Warzone there. That's a different series and everything, but I'm glad they didn't make their own unique crack at it and, further push that narrative of battle royale. Because yeah, I'm not a huge fan of battle royale. I think it's negatively impacted a lot of other industries, or not even a lot of industries, but a lot of other game series, particularly. Of course, particularly shooters, because that's kind of what it lends itself to. The biggest example being COD. People always say, "Oh, Warzone is so popular. It saved COD." You could honestly argue that it, kind of changed COD at the very least, if not kind of continued its decline, like I mentioned in the last video. The bread and butter, the core of COD is never going to be, and never has been, Battle Royale. It has always been multiplayer with a side aspect on zombies, and an even smaller but somewhat still side aspect on the campaign. Battle Royale was kind of a distraction, no matter how. I'm sure it made them shit ton of money, so in that regard, it's very successful and very, very good for them. But when it comes to preserving and improving the core of the series, I think it's kind of depleted, if anything, focusing the attention away from where it should be on the main core of the game, kind of taking a lot of, time, money, and effort away from really saving, I guess you could say, the core game of COD. And you've really seen that in recent years, ever since, Blackout came out, I believe was the first crack. I don't believe Warzone came first, but I think it was Blackout. It's just there haven't been a lot of good COD since then, obviously, but that's not even a uniquely battle royale problem. But it's just it focuses a lot of energy and processing, power, I guess, from these companies away from it. Another, not as big of an example or problem, but something that's, to me anyway, is very big. Apex Legends, which is actually, I just said it was one of the battle royales I actually enjoyed more, which on the surface level I did. I was better at it because, again, no building, gunplay, and it was guns and movement through the Titanfall series that I was actually familiar with and liked, which was made me good at it and I enjoyed it more. But that kind of segues into the problem with Respawn Entertainment in that series. Apex Legends essentially kind of killed Titanfall, honestly. After Titanfall 2, and obviously Apex Legends was their next big thing, I'm not saying that they ever had any plans for Titanfall 3, or that would ever actually have happened necessarily. But I can guarantee you that Apex Legends didn't help the odds of Apex or Titanfall 3 coming out, and them actually putting any thought process in actually developing that game, which sucks. I'm not a huge fan of that personally, because Titanfall for me is one of the most criminally underrated and underplayed first-person shooter genres of all time. Titanfall 2 is almost a masterpiece of a game. The campaign is probably one of the best FPS campaigns I've ever played in my life, and the movement and the multiplayer is fantastic. The gunplay is great. The movement and the unique Titan aspect is fantastic. It is just the most overlooked, unfortunately, overlooked and underplayed game of all time. It's a real shame that that series isn't continuing. Hopefully it does one day, but again, the whole point of this I'm trying to say is, or battle royale, that subgenre has kind of really taken a lot of focus away from a lot of core games, and a lot of their core, I guess bread and butter and everything, and made that overall a worse experience for a lot of people who that's primarily what they use it for and enjoy about it, which I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, even stuff like Halo was, from what I remember, strongly considering a battle royale, which I'm glad they didn't do. So that's one aspect of one way I think Fortnite has negatively impacted the gaming industry, particularly the shooter industry outside of it. Moving on, kind of to the 2 and 2A aspect of the second part of why I think it's kind of negatively impacted the market is battle passes and microtransactions and seasons. All these kind of bundle together essentially, seasons being an overarching thing, and then there's a battle pass for each season, and then there's microtransactions that come along with it. So it's like 1A, 2, 1A, 1B, and 1C type of thing. I don't think that's been, a positive for the gaming industry at all. And just get this out of the way real quick for the 1C part, the microtransactions. They have taken the whole crossover and third party like advertising and stuff and like you know, what's the cameos, I guess you could say, to the next level, compared to a lot of games. But I don't really care about that too much. They're not the ones who started this. If anything, you could say COD and EA in general were kind of the two at the forefront of this, and Activision and EA really pushing microtransactions on people. But again, they didn't do anything differently, and they even elevated more to, especially on the cosmetic side of things, really oversaturate stuff with just a million options, and they're pushing on you a lot, which it's a negative overall trend that I'm not a huge fan of, personally speaking. But that's a minor gripe with that, honestly, compared to the other things. Battle Pass and seasons are the two bigger points, especially when it comes to Fortnite itself and talking about them. Fortnite, I know, I'm sure they're not the first people to do a battle pass or some similar type of concept. I don't have every game that's done it before, during, or after them. Um, but they're definitely probably the largest game example of it, at least, chronologically speaking. Example of a battle pass like that. I don't think battle passes, even just talking broadly, not even Fortnite, battle passes to me have never been a good thing. Even the ones that are just cosmetic, they don't give you any type of advantage for buying it. It's just, I don't appreciate, the less microtransactions, the better, even if they're cosmetics for me. Again, people are like, oh, why do you care? Why do you, if it doesn't affect the game or anything? I just personally don't like oversaturation in my games when it comes to like, oh, there's like a store tab and they're advertising stuff and they're really trying to push you to buy something that isn't a big deal, but it's like it's just annoying. It clutters up the UI, honestly, in my opinion. And obviously, the battle pass, even if you did want to talk about, oh, let them have microtransactions, whether it's pay to win or not, I don't think a battle pass is a great way to do it. It's like, oh, well, you get such good value. You pay $10 and over like a month or something, you get all these different tiers, and it promotes you to play the game more, so it keeps you more engaged with their game and everything. I get the idea behind it for sure, especially on the side of game developers and value and everything. I don't know. It seems like an unnecessary thing. If you want to sell cosmetics or microtransactions, just sell straight up. I've never been a huge fan of this, especially for people who have a lot of time. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that. And again, it seems like every game you're playing nowadays has a battle pass because of that. Whether it's pay to win or just cosmetics, regardless, it's started a bad trend of everything having battle passes and really not needing to do that. In a lot of cases, they're just throwing on random stuff that, oh, You have a little monthly subscription service essentially. So I think it's kind of a bad system that's really just designed to kind of squeeze money out of its customers even more effectively than it can, as optimally as it can essentially, which I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't think it's a positive overall for the gaming industry. And now onto the big thing that kind of encompasses the other things as well with seasons here, which to me is an interesting concept. Seasons are interesting. I'm not even saying Fortnite implemented this in a poor way within their game. I think what Fortnite did with it kind of made sense, especially for a free game and how they did it and for their particular game, getting out updates and changes to the map and to the game in itself. It kind of made sense for Fortnite. But what I don't like, again, is it being ported to a ton of different games when it really doesn't need to be. You have games like Call of Duty now have seasons and stuff, and it seems like, again, to go to 1B here, it seems like a lot of seasons were just implemented to, again, sell battle passes on like a monthly subscription base, basically. Which, again, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think you should be squeezing people and trying to really stuff as many purchases into a game, no matter how good the value or how insignificant it is to the performance of players into the game. It's just, I don't like it personally. And my biggest gripe, particularly with seasons, is it seems to almost be replacing either DLCs or games coming out fully formed and finished. And why I say that is obviously, apart from the battle pass, seasons are generally used to bring in, new updates and changes to a game, as you would expect either, a DLC to do traditionally, or for it to already be there in a regular game. And when it comes to replacing DLCs, I'm not a huge, hater of it. Again, we go back to value. If they don't make you buy the new season for whatever update or content they're releasing, I almost prefer the DLC because, again, I'm not a huge fan of DLC either, adding like these, little drippets of content after the fact. Even ones that are good, I'm not even saying they're bad necessarily content, but I'm not a huge fan of kind of dripping out this content like that and making people essentially have to rebuy almost a new game essentially just for some kind of smaller piece of expansion content. And seasons kind of further implement that. But I think if anything, it might be a little better because sometimes they're free essentially, updates and everything. But again, there's free updates even in games with battle passes. So it's, I mean, is it really a replacement? And I mean, there's games that have season passes or seasons in general, battle passes that also have DLC or updates in general. So it's kind of a muddy area. My biggest gripe with seasons in general, though, is kind of this idea that it replaces you being able to release a game fully finished. And this is kind of the same gripe with DLC in general here. Seasons, a good example maybe kind of is Sea of Thieves and how they've implemented it. I'm not saying that they're a trash game or Seasons caused them to be by any means. Lord knows they got there on their fucking own, but it's it's fucking it's just I'm not a huge fan of like companies releasing games and then kind of fixing them over time. That could be its own fucking video, honestly, with how much I could rant about that. But games like No Man's Sky, Sea of Thieves, Fallout 76 is another example. It's kind of good now or whatever. I love a good comeback story. I love what No Man's Sky has done with itself and be able to reinvent and bring itself to its what its full potential was supposed to be. But I just hate this aspect of games not releasing fully finished, fully cooked and out the oven for you to enjoy and not really have to worry about or do anything else with it. I hate that we're getting further and further away from that every year, and that situations like this are becoming more commonplace. I think seasons have an impact on that, and I'm not a huge fan of it personally because it's like, oh, well, we know this game, didn't have all you wanted when you came out, but just wait a month, wait, half a year, however long their cycles are. It's usually a month or whatever, but it changes game by game. It's like, huge new season two coming or something. And, there's a whole host of bug fixes and changes and, add additional content and stuff. When it's like, really, why are you waiting for seasons to implement this? This either A, should have been in here when you released the game, or B, should have been in here as soon as it was available and like finished. Not like kind of artificially locking it behind these kind of time walls with your seasons and everything. So I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of seasons and battle passes. I think they're unnecessary. I think they just cause more complication and more oversense oversaturation of the games, and stuffing as much stuff into it as possible for monetization, or changing and having the game be a half-baked product on release and eventually finishing it. It's not been a good overall aspect. I think Fortnite in and of itself was an impressive story. It's obviously a good game that's done incredible for Epic Games. It's kind of made them into something that that I don't even think they could ever have dreamed of. Obviously, Unreal Engine, of course, has as well, but along with that, and it's just I think the aspect of you know its overall influence on the gaming industry really just isn't great. Honestly, I think the incessant need to kind of copy Fortnite and to implement a lot of its features, whether it's battle royale, whether it's battle passes, whether it's seasons, into these games, or try to reinvent themselves and change their wheels up to try to do something they shouldn't, or they're not really accustomed to, as really just kind of had a negative impact on a lot of games. I'm not even specifically calling Fortnite a bad game or calling them evil or anything. At the end of the day, these are independent companies. They'll do what they want. They don't have to copy or kind of get in line and follow in the wake, obviously. But it's kind of just hard to ignore the impact that it's had, and see that it's a good thing. I don't know. The gaming industry with that stuff, not all change is good. Again, I like change. I like new stuff. I like I like being positive more than these last couple of videos have shown and kind of displayed. Obviously, it's just I'm not a fan of this incessant this crazy need, even for a free game, um, to kind of just jam as much microtransactions and cosmetics down your throat as it can to try to optimize everything and become really push all this stuff on you when it comes to microtransactions, or to essentially start a monthly subscription for Battle Pass. Monthly subscriptions are okay in certain forms, and if you don't have enough of them, or if you don't have too many of them. But it seems like everything these days is trying to get locked behind a monthly subscription. And I'm not saying that's just everything, all the world's problems are blame or Fortnite's, kind of causing, but it's just specifically in the gaming industry, it's hard to ignore that that's kind of where that really launched off from the pad from the launch pad there is with them. And battle passes is just another monthly subscription that we really don't need on top of everything else we pay for these days. And then seasons again are kind of, I don't know, it's just a bad way of doing things in my opinion. You want to release a game that's fully finished from the start, or do big DLCs if you really feel like you have something massive to add to the game, or just bring out updates as they happen. Don't lock them artificially behind these, time walls and everything. I'm not a huge fan of seasons either. I like playing a game, and once it's released type of thing. With updates and support along the way, of course. That's kind of just my gripe as far as what my thoughts on Fortnite are. Not even the game itself necessarily, but just the impact that's had on the gaming industry. I think it's done some decent stuff for itself, obviously, and for other games. I'm not saying it's all bad, but those are just some of the big three kind of mechanics and features that I thought I'd kind of hone in on this video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. There's gonna be some more videos coming soon, obviously. As you might have noticed, I don't really have a set in stone schedule for releases. For a while there, I was trying to do them like every day or at least every other day. That's just because I had a lot of time on my hands personally. Again, this isn't my full-time job, if you did notice. I know it's hard to tell, but it's not my full-time job or anything. I do this because I enjoy it, because I think it's cool, or I have stuff I want to ramble about randomly. Obviously, it'd be cool if that ever got to that point, but I try to at least post a couple videos a week maybe. I don't have a set in stone schedule as far as days or how many times per week or month or whatever. I don't think I'm never going to be able to fully, unless this eventually becomes a full time job, to be able to do the everyday type of thing. But 2 to 4 videos a week is probably what I'm going to be aiming for, and sometimes they're gonna be like this, talking about topics that I thought are cool. Sometimes they're gonna reviews, or whether it's tech or video games or stuff, or like top five lists and stuff. So yeah, just look forward to that, and also comment down below and everything what you guys think of this, or also what you like to see in the future, because I'd love to hear you guys' input as far as what you guys would like to see or hear here. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day whenever you're watching this. And yeah, if you guys enjoy the content on this channel and this video, your views obviously much appreciated and helps a lot, as well as really appreciate it if you liked or and subscribed to the video if you found this video informative or fun or interesting at all, and you want to help out the channel, because it's really appreciated. But yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your day, man, and I'll catch you guys later.